So, Mr. Lawless, will you please proceed with your statement?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity to offer my testimony about the business of language in the U.S. I will do so on behalf of the Globalization and Localization Association. That's the International Trade Association for the Corporate Translation Sector, also known as GALA. As an American citizen with a thick German accent and an Irish last name, I feel especially motivated to speak to you today how the shortage of language resources puts our economic security at risk. Let me give you some context first. U.S. businesses exported about 1.5 trillion in goods and 600 billion in services last year, all of which depended on language services to sell and market to audiences whose native language is not English. News, statements, websites, movies, product literature, software, safety information, labeling, digital games, and customer support are all translated every day in over 500 major language pairs. The outsourced language services industry represented 15.5 billion of activity and 190,000 jobs in North America last year. This does not account for the vastly larger pool of part-time and freelance linguists in the US, let alone the jobs that the language industry has indirectly created, such as for the American people who help market, sell, deliver, and support US-made products worldwide. Languages and the business that they enable may be the most powerful force in job creation in the United States today. Without languages, US businesses would be missing 2.1 trillion in gross income. As US companies target multilingual audiences at home and abroad, they create a rapidly growing need for language services and a workforce that can deliver in cross-cultural settings. If you sell products in Germany, your customers will tweet back at you in German, and your customer support team needs to be ready. To stay relevant and to continue to successfully compete in the global marketplace, US companies must build language capabilities. Acquiring language skills takes time, repeated exposure, and practice to develop. Not acting immediately on these development needs have dire consequences on the US economy. We are already seeing a chronic shortfall of qualified language specialists and stagnant translator productivity. As a result, corporations are increasingly relying on less qualified translators and low-quality machine translations, all of which are rendering their products less competitive in the global marketplace. The American workforce needs more key competencies in disciplines such as translation, localization, terminology, localization technologies, engineering, and multimedia. These skills are in high demand and will continue to be sought after. US businesses and government agencies are addressing their needs for language competence, but we need more cooperation between private sector, government, academia. For example, in investing in startup and existing language technology companies, promoting research and development of language activity in key areas such as emerging markets, homeland security, and cybercrime, expanding the educational and career opportunities for US citizens in language-related fields, and last but not least, training specialized workers such as law enforcement officers and the intelligence community in targeted skills. As an association, GALA is committed to educating our member companies and advancing our industry to alleviate the looming crisis. But we cannot do it all on our own. We will need the close collaboration between translation service companies, technology providers, the buyer community, government, and academia. GALA would welcome the opportunity to expand on this testimony and our recommendations in more detail. We also appreciate the invitations from the previous panel to collaborate with the private sector, and we are definitely open for that and welcome that conversation. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I'm happy to answer any question that you might have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lawless. Mr. Lawless.
Yes.
What are some of the barriers U.S. companies face when attempting to enter overseas markets. And how does the process of localization assist companies in accessing and succeeding in these markets?
Right, so there is a difference between translation and localization. And localization is the adaptation or cultural adaptation of products or services to the target country. Give you an example, you buy a Japanese car, you buy here in the US, you sit on the left, even though they're produced in Japan, so where they have, where you sit on the right because you have left in traffic. So you need to adapt your product, you need to adapt your user manual, you need to adhere to local laws and regulations. So that's the process of localization. It goes far beyond just translation, although translation is one of the most important parts of localization. The question that you asked is, what are the key challenges for US companies to enter markets? And that really depends on the organization. It starts with that very often they don't know how to put a document into translation. But most likely, and that resonates with what was said in the previous panel, it is lack of executive awareness. And if more executives understood that almost 50% of the income comes from overseas, they would pay more attention. I give an example with Apple Computer. Apple Computer last year, of the $108 billion of revenue, 60% of that was generated abroad. Facebook's international revenue grew from 33% in 2010 to 44% in 2011. Walmart international sales in the last quarter of last year rose by up to almost 9%, whereas their US business slipped by 0.5%. If more executives really understood that language is the key enabler for their success and for their ability to survive, they wouldn't have a lot of middle managers in their companies that struggle to get their budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lawless. Mr. Lawless and Dr. Goodman, the task force's report discussed the reality of cyber espionage against business and government information systems. Would you explain why foreign languages are important to cybersecurity?
Yes, yeah. Right now, with the explosion of languages on the internet, only 20% of that content is in English. So the rest is, I guess, not English. And there's also a huge increase in what we call user-generated content through blogs and other social media sites. So if you want to analyze what's out there, if you want to understand what other people say about you as a company or about us as a nation, then speaking those languages, but also understanding that language in the current political context and the context of the culture is absolutely crucial.
My next question is for the panel. I would like to give you all an opportunity to provide any final statements or comments that you'd like to make on this. I know you have lots to say about foreign languages, so let me call on Mr. Lawless first on, again, any final statements or comments you'd like to make.
Yes, well, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to testify to you and the subcommittee. We are, as an industry association, we represent the majority of people that actually produce that work that generates $2.1 trillion. I have to think about $2.1 trillion in revenue. And we would really welcome the opportunity to cooperate with the previous panel and this panel, because our channels, we have all the same challenges, and at this point, we are not really talking. And so again, thanks again for the invitation, and I'm looking forward to more conversation hereafter. Thank you.
Thank you.